Okay, moving on. We're talking about adjectival prepositional phrases right now. And we're talking about the prepositional phrase is actually the prepositional phrase is actually not hard to identify. You can see down here that it's actually pretty easy to identify in a sentence. But what's a little bit more difficult, and of course I expect you to read this section, what's a little bit more difficult with a prepositional phrase is to determine whether it modifies, whether it's acting as an adjective or whether it's acting as an adverb. Because prepositional phrases can modify verbs or other adverbs, or they can modify the nouns, okay? So, and they look the same, and so you have to really look at the sentence closely to figure out which role they're playing. And I'll give you two examples here, and I'll read this little section for you here. It says, adjectival and adverbial prepositional phrases look exactly alike. For example, compare the prepositional phrase with friends in the following sentences. We had a nice dinner last night with friends. A nice dinner with friends is always a great pleasure. One of these is an adverb and one is an adjective, which means one of these prepositional phrases modifies a noun, and one of them modifies an action. Okay, so how do you determine this in an easy way? All right. The easiest way, and we've already done this before, is to look at which prepositional phrase is actually part of the noun phrase. Okay, which prepositional phrase is part of the noun phrase? And remember, we talked about noun phrases, and we talked about earlier replacing a noun phrase with a third person, pronoun. And we've already done this once. And so whichever, if the prepositional phrase is replaced with the third person pronoun, you know it's acting as an adjective. If it is not replaced by the pronoun, you know it's not acting like an adjective. So I'm just going to do these two examples that they have here for you. And we're going to see here. It says, we had a nice dinner last night with friends. We had a nice dinner with friends. We had a nice dinner last night with friends. Okay, I would say last night could even be modify which dinner. Okay, we had a nice dinner with friends, or we had a nice dinner last night with friends. Okay, so with friends is not replaced by the it test. All right, we had it last night with friends. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. A nice dinner with friends is always a great pleasure. It is always a great pleasure. Okay, so what do we replace? Well, we replace with friends. So this with friends modifies the adjective. Okay, so this one stays there, so it's an adverb. This one disappears, so it's the adjective. Okay, so if you can replace, if the prepositional phrase that you replace is replaced by the third person adjective, or I mean by the third person pronoun, because the whole noun phrase, if it's part of the noun phrase, it's an adjective. If the prepositional phrase is not part of the noun phrase, it's an adverb. It's acting as an adverb. Okay, so noun phrase means it's an adjective. So if the prepositional phrase is part of the noun phrase, it's an adjective. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that, and I'll give you another example here that they give. We had a nice dinner last night. We had it last night with friends. Okay, and then they walk you through that, and then it is always a great pleasure. Okay, this is, as you can see, the third person pronoun substitution test shows that the prepositional phrase is not adjectival in the first sentence because it is outside the boundaries of the third person pronoun substitution. It says in the second sentence, however, the third person pronoun it can be substituted for the noun and prepositional phrase, proving the prepositional phrase is part of the noun phrase and thus a noun modifier. Okay, so if it's part of the noun phrase, it's a noun modifier. It's going to be replaced. Okay, so in this one it says underline all the prepositional phrases in the following sentences. Above each prepositional phrase, write adjective if it is an adjective or adverb if it is an adverb. If it is an adjectival, confirm your answer by using the third person pronoun substitution test. Okay, so let's take a look at here and see what they have. Remember, we want to know if it's an adjective, adverb, and then we're going to prove it's an adverb by replacing it with a pronoun. Okay, in the last quarter, we expect to see an improvement in our earnings. Okay. And then here they have it as an adjective in the last quarter. Here in our earnings, adjective. How do we know? In the last quarter, we expect to see it. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry. This is an adverb. Okay. Okay. So, that's... let's take a look at another one. Okay. It says the road by our house is being paved. Okay. The road by is a preposition. Is being paved. So, and then of course I would underline our house. Okay. So, and I'm going to write, and I'm going to try to replace this. The road by our house, it is being paved. It is being paved. Okay, so since I can replace, since by our house is replaced in the third person pronoun replaces that, it's part of the noun phrase, so this would be acting as an adjective, all right? Because it was part of the noun phrase, all right? So let's do a couple more, because I don't want this to be too tough for you. Okay, the frozen chickens in the supermarket are not very good. In, obviously, that's a start of a preposition. In where? The supermarket. Okay. So, the frozen chickens in the supermarket are not very good. All right, so I'm going to replace this as they are not very good. All right, so in the supermarket is replaced is part of the noun phrase because it disappears when I use a third person pronoun, so it's acting as an adjective. All right, how about the next one? Let's do one more together. Breakfast will be served in the main dining room. Okay, so in is the preposition. And the object of the preposition, the main dining room. All right, now let's use breakfast will be served in the main dining room. It will be served in the main dining room. Okay, obviously, you can tell that when I replace the subject or the noun phrase with it, my preposition did not disappear. All right, so it must be modifying served. It must be modifying the verbs. So this would be an adverb. All right. So if you remember, if the prepositional phrase disappears when you replace it with a third person pronoun, if it disappears with the noun phrase, if it's part of the noun phrase, then it's acting as an adjective. If it is not part of the noun phrase, it is acting as an adverb. All right. You already know what to do if you need help. You confer with your friends, get some help from them, come in during before school or after school, and I will help you out. Good luck, and study hard, and hopefully you're ready for the test on this subject, on prepositions and adjectival prepositions and clauses and all that kind of good stuff. See you in the next video.